The 300th episode of the TV Dudes, recorded September 16th, 2020. Guys, we are celebrating 300 episodes, and what better way than by bringing on our TV Dudes co-founder, Grant Davis, and talking about our top 12 shows of all time. Sort of. We each picked...
Not our collective, right?
No, we each picked 3 shows that are sort of favorites, and we're going to talk about them, and probably a couple cheater picks, as we celebrate 300 episodes of the TV Dudes. I believe we've done this Desert Island thing before, right?
Oh, surely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
A bunch.
Yeah. And usually it comes down to this, you got to hem and haw when you're having only 3. You're like, well, okay, I want to pick something that's got a bunch of episodes. Going to Desert Island, I want to have a bunch. And we didn't do any of that. We just kind of arbitrarily picked 3 shows each.
Randy, you keep calling it a desert island?
Yes.
So like if we were on a desert island, I've never heard this before. This is great. We should copyright this. We should do this all the time. Do other shows do this?
What are you doing?
This desert island pick?
Desert island.
This is great.
Like, it would be better than an actual desert. I mean,
what I actually said was Desert Island. And I understand.
No, I've heard of that.
We don't have those anymore after COVID, but it's what TV would you watch at the chocolate fountain at the Sirloin Stockade?
Okay.
But that seemed too specific.
If you ran up the flag at Poncho's, what show would they bring you?
Is Poncho still a place?
There's no way. Okay, if Poncho survives this pandemic, but like every other fucking restaurant's gone.
Nothing can kill the Ponchos.
It is the cockroach of restaurants.
So I put this in order so that in theory we all will get turns to talk. It won't be like Kyle does his 3 shows, Les does his 3 shows, I do my 3 shows, then Grant does his 3 shows. So I'm going, but I did make an arbitrary. This is not like a top 12 where we're starting from the bottom and then going to the top. It is going against my list-making nature. I just picked a show to start with and then found some stuff that was loosely themed in that area. So I am just going to start with my pick. One of my picks, which is Cheers.
Ah, yes. That amazing 80s PSA on alcoholism.
It's funny because I've talked about Cheers numerous times on this show, and I think one of the things I've rewatched the show every couple of years. I'll go back and do a big grand rewatch, like watch an episode or 2 a night, and it takes me the whole year to get through it because it's got a pretty decent sized number of episodes, and it changes as it goes along. Like, it's got a great ensemble cast, but they lost notable characters like, Coach Pantuso, Nicholas Colasanto died, and so they had to replace him with Woody Harrelson, which is actually a pretty good change-up, I think. It works really well. And then Shelley Long made the weird career decision to leave the show at its height of popularity and was replaced by Kirstie Alley. And the show, they brought in Frasier, who kind of took over the show in some ways. They would add characters in, they would develop the cast, and I think for the most part, they didn't really stumble. Toward the end, when they were starting to try a little more like drama stuff, I remember an episode late in the game where Sam is losing his hair and has a heartfelt discussion with Carl in the office, and I'm like, guys, this is not the show you're making. I don't want to see a show about Sam losing his hair.
Like the very special episode is Sam balding. That's great.
I have a Cheers confession. I always had trouble getting into it because it was my parents' show when I was younger. Like, they loved it, so I was like, I hate that. I want to watch Rescue Rangers.
So you're saying that Randy's your dad?
That's the 300th episode bombshell I was going to drop later, Grant. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
This
is why we need show notes.
Weight class. Randy watches above his TV class. he's always been a TV dude.
Episode 300, and the father is.
That's right. My third show is Maury.
I was about to say, so where does Maury fall in our top 12?
Yeah, it's so funny that you still hold this show in such high regard after all of the much better television you've seen since.
I think during one of my last rewatches, I posted about this. I think maybe like 3 or 4 years ago I posted, and one of my friends was like, "What are you doing? Watch It's Always Sunny. Watch that." I'm like, I watch those shows too, but Cheers is like it's like a warm neighborhood bar that you go to and drink yourself into a stupor. It's very comforting, and you can't
like
do that
Abby's?
in real life. You can't do that in real life anymore because COVID. So Cheers is like the only way.
Abby's would be open during COVID.
Abby's would definitely be open during COVID.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Where is their COVID episode?
So Cheers is a show that I used to always watch late at night. Not late at night, but late at night when I was a teenager. At like 10 o'clock it would come on. And I would always watch it as a double feature. And that double feature was at 10:30, Night Court would come on. And Night Court is one of Les's picks.
Yes. So I watched a lot of Cheers as the intro, like as the lead in to Night Court. Like get all your stuff ready so you can sit down and watch Night Court. So I've seen a lot of Cheers, but it was not my primary reason the way it was for Randy on those nights. Though Harry the Hat, Harry Anderson, was first introduced. Not the same character he plays on Night Court, but his first gig really was being a con man, street magician, 3-card Monte scam artist named Harry the Hat on Cheers. And then when they got ready to launch Night Court, they pulled him because of him being likable on there. I love Night Court. It ran for years. It did kind of a similar thing that Cheers had to do on changing up cast due to just circumstance, death of actor. And each time, it's great. I love Selma Diamond, who's their first bailiff. I can't remember Flo's last name, but their second bailiff that replaces her, and then Roz, Marsha Warfield, is great. The first season they go through all these cast changes. It is definitely, unlike Cheers, it is definitely them working their way around to the right chemistry. But it's just one of those shows that I grew up with. It's a warm hug. I could still go back and watch. And if there was a block of Night Court on and I was flipping through, I guess I'd have to be at my parents' house. I don't know where real television happens anymore. But if I were flipping through a guide of television and there was a 5-hour block of Night Court, that's what we're doing. That's just what's happening.
Last time I was at my folks' place, they had on basic cable, they still have like a RF antenna TV. So not like an antenna, but like when they made everybody get new antennas, they have like 3 public access Nick at Night ripoff channels that all play like old black and white TV. And at least one of them's doing like a sci-fi or a horror thing. So
It's just westerns
really
and
cool
catheter ads,
late-night.
man. That's all it is.
But no, Night Court's totally one of the shows that have been.
Oh yeah,
playing
like the
at
Laugh
midnight.
Network. It's just all like Grace Under Fire and Night Court, and I'm there for it.
That'd be the funnest subscription service where you just get all the Nick at Night ripoffs. You can watch all the old TV.
But see,
Hey, Les, do you know how long Night Court ran?
God, 8 years.
I was wondering, did it have
8
an
seasons.
ending? Because
Yes.
Cheers is one of the few sitcoms that had like an ending episode. It's a really good finale episode, I think.
They all went to jail in Night Court, I think.
No, I don't.
Seinfeld.
I don't believe it has a straight up finale ending, though. What I'm remembering more clearly at this point is the 30 Rock episode where Kenneth
Yeah.
was the cast hostage.
Right.
And so I may be misremembering this at this point. Night
I
Court
do
is
love
also
the-
not streaming anywhere, despite there being a goofy service named Peacock now. They still have not bothered to put it on there, which kills me. I mean, you can go buy years of Night Court, or you can find them on a hard drive wherever things like that happen. Certainly not illegally.
Funny
But-
enough, I went to YouTube for a Munsters clip, and it said NBC has taken this down for copyright. So I just went to Peacock app, and it was on there. I was like, oh, okay. At least I know where it's at.
But see, that doesn't work for Night Court.
Court.
I don't know why they're ashamed.
You got the shaft, Les.
You know, I like that, Randy, you posed, when you were emailing us about this episode, you posed it in a way where you said, here is my top drama, here's my top comedy, and here's my top wild card. You didn't tell
Yes.
us that we necessarily had to follow that same format.
I did not.
But in a way, it did kind of influence some of my choice of how I picked my top 3 shows of all time or whatever,
And-
because I was
and
like,
then
I do want one in a comedy slot.
And then I dropped that format.
And then you yeah, you did drop that format, but it does seem like each of us has a comedy when, I don't know, I feel like in years past when we've done this episode, there's been a lot of us just kind of going all drama.
Here's
Yeah.
my 3 prestige. Yeah.
Yeah, what's interesting is my 3 are all, I mean, 2 of them are straight up comedies, and the other one is arguably a lighthearted comedy, even though it's got some dark moments in it. I didn't go for any prestige dramas. When I was thinking about like the 3 shows, I was like, and maybe it's just because we're in 2020 and my brain is just not wired for drama anymore. It's just like I need more Ted Lassos in my life and less what's the sharp edges or whatever the Gillian
Sharp objects.
Sharp objects. I need more Ted Lasso, less sharp objects.
The Killing or some shit.
Killing.
Yeah.
But you're right. We all did have at least a comedy. Although Grant, I didn't put your comedy up front.
I was gonna say my favorite comedy of all time, Lost. No. Of course, Lost would be one of my shows I have to include on there. 6 incredible seasons. This is the show that really transformed what television could be and is for me. In that, it's not just it's the week-to-week investment in the discussion, the water cooler talk around what the mystery could be, how a community constructed for me just because of this show, how I got into podcasting, and I had a segment in our first podcast we did, Randy, where I would talk all about Lost, and then I spun that off into doing my own ARG with a bunch of people on the spill.com forums talking about Lost. I was so obsessed week to week because this show delivered what I love most about what TV can do, where it brings a bunch of people in that can all just dissect and obsess about every little nuance and put a show up on such a pedestal that it can never fully deliver on.
I'm curious, Grant. Do you rewatch Lost regularly, or you ever go back to it, or
You know what? I've never rewatched it.
what?
I've started a little bit of a rewatch and went, this is really good. I don't know if I have the time to do this. I think I watched like the first 2 seasons again. I was like, this is really good. I like the second season still. It's much better than like Friday Night Lights second season.
That's crazy. I'm surprised that it didn't make a rewatch for you. I mean, I know it's a lot. It's a lot of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It's something I fantasize about one day doing a podcast series deep dive, episode by episode, week by week, where I can just like, here's this episode. I'm going to spend an hour and a half, 2 hours dissecting everything that I obsessed about it then, that I'm obsessed about it now. Here's what I know in context about it.
I want in on the Nikki and Paolo episode. I just want to cheerlead through that whole episode about it being fantastic, and people need to shut the fuck up about Nikki and Paolo.
I also have a suggestion. I say you just pepper in little bits of misinformation, but have every piece of misinformation be part of a bigger code. So the people that watch the show but also know when you get it wrong, they'll be like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And it's like, no, put the clues together.
You break the cipher. It's like Gravity Falls. You break the cipher, and it's a Rickroll.
It's my weird love note to Damon Lindelof.
Grant, I feel like the Dharma Initiative could be useful in 2020. We're all stuck in our homes. If there was some kind of mystery about what was going on, and they were dropping us generic food, like it would feel out of peace with 2020. If someone may have turned the polar bear wheel the wrong way and started this whole thing.
It feels a little bit that way. I in fact, I think just a couple weeks ago, started working on a script with Kyle that was talking about a hatch. And I was just thinking, am I just cribbing Lost here?
If you guys find a hatch in 2020, don't open it. Wait at least a year. Don't open it right now.
Randy, I have some bad news about 2021 for you.
Somebody already opened the hatch.
The way you think.
Texas government is definitely going to shoot Dharma Initiative supplies out of the sky.
So the three of us have our first try. So it's Kyle's turn, and those of you who know Kyle probably know what's coming.
Is it vroom vroom?
It is vroom vroom, Kyle.
Yeah. Guys, I remember my very first time. I think it was my first time. No, my second time visiting Austin, but my first time getting to listen to the podcast live, and then out of nowhere, Grant, all the people who were like there at his house listening to that episode, was like, "Everybody go around and tell me what your favorite show is." I was like, "Ooh, get to be on the podcast? Imagine that!" But I said it then. I'll probably keep saying it, but Top Gear, aka the Andy Woolman Grand Tour, the team up of Jeremy Clarkson, Richard May, and James Hammond. Did I get that right? Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, the thing is...
making all of this up.
That is funny. And then the code is like, open the hatch. No, that's totally like something they would do on this show. It's like, at the end of this episode, we're going to open this hatch here that we have no clue what it is.
Just a hatchback.
What they do is they have this really clever way of blending essentially like video blogging before there was video blogging about guys driving around and, kind of being jackasses. But they're able to take that and then in post craft just a really clever and creative story where they often lead you in different directions on purpose to get great comedic payoffs. We keep talking about relationships watching a show, whether it was like a certain age or a certain place. This was the show that was always on in the cafe at my college freshman year. So it'd be like breakfast, getting a breakfast sandwich or something, and that's on in the background. And you get caught in one of their segments because, it's broken up probably into like 5 chunks. So you don't really need to sit down and invest in a whole episode. There's usually like a little documentary bit or a film, as they call it, that can keep you interested for a minute. They do everything from like impossible races to, you guys have heard me talk about this. I actually did want to mention this time because it's my millionth time talking about this show. Really the magic of it is this guy, Andy Willman, this producer for the show. He does all their top 10 episodes and stuff, but he's kind of the guy that knows how to like wrangle in this whole story and turn it into, what's entertaining now. And it's crazy to think of like, in addition to all the comedy and all of the just logistics of the traveling they do, they go all over the world. There is like also this amazing cinematic quality to everything they do. They get like top tier like cinematographers, people coming up to film these cars in like a million different ways, and they each seem like a short movie. I remember when the first Avengers came out, they had some segment where it was like a superhero type car, and they made this car look like it was a freaking Avenger, and it's just a car. It takes gas, like we all do.
That one weird a little bit. I would like to talk about the TV Dudes history aspect of this, which is I still remember the first time you came on the show with us at Grant's house. We used to record at Grant's place, and I remember the little videos we made. Do you remember the intro? Do you remember what your name was in the credits video?
Oh, I was watching this recently too.
Really?
No, I remember this. So we did a like Three's Company style thing that had me and Grant and Greg and Amanda Arias and Dimitri,
Jordan,
and Kyle. And was Jordan there too?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I think Mike J. McAllister.
Oh,
also.
Mike was there too. Yeah. And we all like basically came in through the door and did our little 2 seconds of whatever playing for the camera, and Grant like put names over the who they were playing.
You were Uncle something or other, I think.
Uncle Klutzy. Kyle is Uncle Klutzy because I think he like fumbled something on his way in.
He pulled his glasses off to kind of shake them, and he dropped them a little bit.
No, God, those are fun times.
Yeah,
why'd we quit doing those videos every week? Well, I guess I came in after that. Why'd you quit doing those videos?
It took a lot of
because
time.
it took so much time, and we couldn't go. It was like the Patreon every week. It was like trying to come up with a topic. We tried to come up with a topic and film it. It was really difficult.
That was a good point.
It was fun.
They were fun, and I actually still every so often I'll see one of those will pop up on YouTube, and I'll wind up going to a rabbit hole and watch a few of them, and be embarrassed by the fact that those are on YouTube.
Kyle, I always think it's funny that I have a 1971 Corvette Stingray in my garage, as well as a tricked out drift car, and I don't care at all about cars or Top Gear. Those are my wife's cars. Those are her cars.
I just bought a brand new Mustang, and I also don't care about cars.
You know what's funny? I have a shitty car. They've even test drove the Honda CRV before, and they've said this is a terrible car. I wouldn't drive this if somebody paid me. And I love this show.
Listening to Kyle talk about all of the things that he loves about Top Gear, and the only episodes I've ever seen that I really enjoyed are none of those things. None of the skits or the comedic payoffs or anything. They do a segment that is celebrities in a reasonably priced car, or they used to. And there's an episode with Cameron Diaz and Tom Cruise from some forgettable movie they made together. And Cameron Diaz just nonstop swears for like 5 minutes of driving the hell out of this car. And then Tom Cruise gets in it. And all of the crap about him doing all of his own stunts, and he has clearly been through more stunt car training than any human should ever take. And he puts it up on two wheels, and like it cuts back to them in the studio, and you can see the look on their face of like, oh fuck, we've killed Tom Cruise for this show. And then he puts the car back down, and like, okay, thank God.
By the way, that movie was probably Night and Day.
Yes, that sounds right.
Yeah.
I'm so ashamed that I know that. I've never seen
I thought that
movie.
was one. Okay, for a long time, my brain just put that down as one of the lock and key failed attempts. Like, yeah, didn't they make a movie of it? No, that's Night and Day.
Randy, you got another one, right?
Yeah,
Wait.
so let's go over to the little more esoteric ones. This is my wild card pick and Les's wild card pick. Each of which we have done shows about. Specifically, we made our separate full on podcasts for these shows. So of course they were going on our top three. And Les, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, so when Grant was talking about Lost, I realized how much his pick and my pick here have in common. We both got into podcasting because of these shows. Both of them share a writer in Javi Grillo-Marx Watch in the opening seasons. And in fact, one of the first things I think I ever read by Javi that was not something he'd written on TV was his 40-page manifesto on why no one should ever ask him about Lost again. Explaining the polar bear and a bunch of other shit that he never wants to talk about again. So my show is Middleman, which aired on ABC Family in 2007, 2008. And its lead-in was literally the 700 Club due to just spectacular contract negotiation. In fact, I think they still have to air that, even having changed their name to Freeform, which is amazing. I want the lawyers from the 700 Club. But Middleman is just a goofy, deeply goofy show about Wendy Watson, who is this out-of-work artist who goes for a temp job, and it turns out the temp agency is a front for like a spy agency. They don't really know who they work for. They just get orders to go stop something weird, Men in Black style, and they go stop it. They're just the middleman.
Plug and done.
Right. And so it ran 12 episodes. It originally was going to run 13. They knew they were going to get canceled, and they literally folded the 13th episode budget into the 12th and made a big blowout ending for it. And then they, a few years later, literally followed it up with an ending comic that really put a button on it. It was great. I love this show. I've interviewed most of the cast for it, and talked endlessly to a bunch of writers about it. It is my favorite nerd out show of all time. I wish it was actually streaming somewhere on like Disney Plus or one of the many streaming networks like Hulu that Disney also owns. Because ABC Family or ABC.com, that would be great too. Literally any of these things. But instead,
Weirdly,
you can go buy it on Amazon. It's on what?
Weirdly, it would be on CW Seed.
Right.
It just seems like everything's there.
I mean, at least put it somewhere. You can buy it on Amazon. I recommend everybody go watch a couple of episodes of it. It's just endlessly silly. It is a mashup of every conceivable reference, nerd out, comic book thing you could pile into one show, all of it at once, hat on top of hat on top of hat.
Weirdly, I bought it on DVD when you were doing the podcast in order to do the podcast with you. I had seen like one episode, and then I watched the rest of them because you put me on for I think the finale.
Yeah.
And I watched the entire show and fell so in love with it that I was then upset that there was not more of the show.
Yes.
And I feel like that was what your podcast, the Good Die Young, the initial season of Good Die Young was about, was addicting people to shows they couldn't watch the rest of.
Yes. My wife just gets really mad at me about it, especially failed pilots, which we're going to talk about on the Patreon tonight. Actually, I made Kyle watch a pilot that he can never watch more of.
Yeah, bummer. It was a goodie.
So I did something similar. Before Good Die Young, that I think inspired you to do Good Die Young, which was my favorite show going back to the early days of TV Dudes, was a little show called Terriers on FX. It had a crazy good pedigree. It was like Sean Ryan from The Shield, and then Ted Griffin, who wrote Ocean's 11, amongst other things, and had Donald Logue and Michael Raymond James playing these like unlicensed detectives in Ocean Beach, California. And it's like noir with like sunny noir, I guess. And I loved that show. I was so impressed with it, and it lasted a season and died. And it has a really good ending that is also a cliffhanger.
It doesn't sound like a show you would like. Completely written for you.
Yes, yeah, and so when they were doing a reunion for ATX TV Festival, and I was doing interviews at that point, and I decided that I was at least going to try and get an interview with Sean Ryan and Ted Griffin, and that at some point before that, I decided to pitch hey, if I did a podcast about this show, would you guys help me get interviews? Would you do interviews with me? Maybe help me connect with the cast and the crew. And they were quite into the idea, which was cool. And so, as a result, I did a episode by episode rundown of the show and talked to all the creators, talked to a bunch of the cast, and it remains one of my favorite TV memories. I dragged Grant in to produce, and I think nearly broke him.
Did I do anything on that? I don't remember this project at all. I know you're.
You've wiped it for your brain. That's good. But it's really fun. It's light in that there's this great buddy relationship between the two guys, but there's also this weird darkness. There's a infidelity story and violence that comes around as a result of that. There's the themes of like power and the power of the rich over the poor, and the sort of the fact that you couldn't really trust the police, that he was an ex-cop. There's a lot of stuff in there that resonates really well, and especially continues to resonate now. It's such a great show, and I would recommend anybody who has not watched it, who's listened to this podcast, somehow has not heard me talk about it, to go and find Terriers. It's not streaming anywhere. You have to buy it now. But if you do, you can watch it, and you can listen to the Beach Cop Detectives podcast alongside and listen to all the episode breakdowns and the interviews and all that kind of stuff.
Terriers is FX, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, we often talk about like if I could only have one network, dude. FX in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah,
I only have one network.
FX would probably be the one. They had so much good stuff and some good one seasons. Grant, your next show is a little more popular than my favorite Terriers.
I picked The Office.
What?
Especially when I thought about like what's my favorite comedy. Usually, you know what my favorite comedy used to always be? Arrested Development. I used to always say Arrested Development. And guess what happened? They tacked on 2 more seasons, which really reinforced how awful that 3rd season was. And so that's 3 awful seasons of that show that just destroyed my love of it.
They tilted the balance the wrong way.
Yep.
Yeah, real bummer.
But The Office is that show that I have watched easily the most of any television show ever on TV. And I don't know. I can't really figure out why I keep going back to this show. I get the familial elements of it, this mundane workplace comedy where these people genuinely seem to care for each other, and that builds over the seasons. And it's just something that's very comforting to me. It's easy to watch, and it's clearly not just me that loves watching this show. I think it was like 58 billion hours like last year.
We're talking about the British Office, right?
Kyle, not everything is British.
I mean, The Office is kind of
but if there's an option,
if there was a British audio track for every show, Kyle would turn that audio track on.
the dub.
He's like, I'm just listening to the British dub of The Office.
do you set your map on your phone? Like, does Google Maps yell
I actually
your directions in British? I've had that.
So
take the slip road. The slip road.
Grant, The Office is also like it's super popular in that, like, when Netflix, I can't remember if it's still on Netflix right now or not.
It is.
But like Netflix like paid a decent chunk to keep it, I think, because it was like it was it was one of those like that and Friends when people were watching.
And you know what? I think that NBC would be unwise to try and pull that one over to Peacock just to try and force people over there, because it's got to be paying them well worth it for what it does for them and for Netflix. It's like a mutually beneficial kind of exchange there, because people go in through Netflix, which they already have, and they're just going to keep rewatching it, and Netflix is going to pay.
I agree.
I love the idea that if Peacock is a thorn in Netflix's side, they're 100% funded by Netflix paying for The Office.
Do you think, Grant, that they will be that wise? Because I don't.
I don't know. I honestly don't know, but I do know that I just finished my millionth rewatch of this show about 3 weeks ago, and there's a new podcast that's over on Spotify. Brian Baumgartner, who played Kevin Malone, does this 12-part series where he's investigating what it was about the origination of it, how it grew and suddenly caught on from a flailing show into something that was actually a fan favorite, what happened when Steve Carell left the show, and then just kind of the end resolution. And I think the last episode just came out 2 days ago on Tuesday for his podcast. I've been listening to that so eagerly that I went over to Apple Podcasts and was like, man, I just need another Office podcast. I wish there was something else like this. I typed it in, like, Office podcast, and the first thing that popped up was Office Ladies, which is on Earwolf, and is Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey, also from The Office. Yeah. And I was like, and they're doing an episode-by-episode breakdown. It is, like, the best thing, and it's, this is, all my time is being spent revisiting everything about The Office.
It is crazy that the people who made The Office, the people who are on it, are now doing basically essentially fan casts of their show. Like, that is not something that happens.
Right. It's
crazy.
Genuinely love the project and everyone they worked with, it seems.
Yeah. And The Office had like some rough spots, like when they lost Carell. And I know some people were not fond of some of the later seasons. Do you have bits you skip, or do you go straight through on your rewatches?
I don't skip, but man, I hate Andy Bernard. I can't stand Andy Bernard. I hate the man.
The thing I'll always remember about The Office is it really defined that Thursday night NBC lineup. And it seemed like all the shows that were associated with that Thursday night block, it was like, for that time period, the must-see night of TV, which turned into kind of the Friday morning, because that's really when I started to catch wind of not only Hulu, but like Hulu on my laptop while I was, taking a break at work or doing something at school. So I eventually that was one of my like first Hulu shows where I would sit there and watch all the ads just to get like the latest episode of The Office. And then, it was 30 Rock for a while, Community for a while. Probably another show we'll end up talking about for a while.
So I want to talk. I put my last show in next because it is sort of, it came out of The Office. Like it was originally going to be an Office spinoff, and that is part.
You're just gonna skip past Kyle's.
I'm going to go to Kyle's next.
Okay.
Because I think it thematically it works.
All right.
because the show I want to talk about is Parks and Rec, which, if I recall correctly, and I feel like, Grant, you may know a little bit of this, like, it was supposed to be an Office spinoff, right? It was like Mike Schur and Greg Daniels were doing they were going to do like the Parks and Rec department.
From what I understand, it kind of started with the seed of inspiration of it coming from the same world, but I think they quickly kind of departed from that and just wanted to keep it of the same spirit.
Okay, because that's what it is. It's like, it does that same, it's got some people who are sort of unlikable, but they all become more likable, especially after season 1. It's got that family vibe. It's got that, it's about something mundane. Like, The Office is about a paper company, and Parks and Rec is about the Parks Department of Pawnee, Indiana, this like small town. And yet they managed to make it all, the stakes are big enough and they're personal enough, you care about these characters, that they had some really strong emotional stuff and some really, really funny stuff. Like, by the end, they had developed all these characters the same way they did The Office, these background characters. And so you had this wide variety of people. And they also did kind of what The Simpsons did, where they kind of built up this strange town around them, and the legends of Pawnee, and like how everyone was so fat, and things like Paunchburger and the Sweetums Candy Company and that kind of stuff. The weirdness of the town developed alongside them. Yeah, Herd with Bird. That guy's got a career playing that guy forever. He's in the Fast and Furious movies playing that guy.
Is he really?
He's in Fast and Furious 5, and he is playing a reporter, and he's playing him just like Bird.
Oh, I remember that.
It's funny because Greg Daniels, who created The Office, the American version of The Office, came from working on King of the Hill and The Simpsons. And I think very much like he was on the early seasons of The Simpsons when they really started fleshing out the town and community and making even the smaller bit parts like so memorable that they became long running fan favorites. And you see how that has echoed and reverberated through The Office and then into Parks and Rec. And like Michael Schur was the protege of Greg Daniels and definitely took on and learned so much from Greg Daniels that he's now like the new king of like at least critical acclaim comedies on TV.
Oh yeah. Also, I think the Parks and Rec and The Office both did something that Friends and other shows would try to do, which is they would combine comedy and sort of heartfelt moments. Like, there's a lot of just great heartwarming moments that's one of the reasons. This is why this made my top 3, is that this is a show that I would watch over and over again when I need to feel like humanity isn't terrible. Like, there's those bits, like The Office has several moments like that, but it's got like Jim proposing to Pam, and them having a kid, and a lot of that stuff that just plays out really, really well. And then Parks and Rec has that same kind of thing. There's some marriages, Andy and April's marriage, and some of the reveals later about Gary, Jerry, Larry. Like, there's so many good like moments where you're invited to care about these people and also find them funny. And I think that balance is hard to hit, and they do a really good job of it.
I don't understand you liking that sentimental bull crap.
I forgot you're a robot. So yeah, the leading from the two American comedies, I wanted to jump into Kyle's Brit comedy pick.
Man, I didn't purposely mean to like Brit overload my list.
Come on.
But when I think about comedies, I think about the same thing you guys do, like rewatchability, something that is less of I'm going to get into the story, but more, I want to be in this place with these people. Like, I want to just like shut off the real world for a second and kind of join this show. And kind of the world of the IT crowd is the basement level of some huge unnamed corporation where big sexy people are running around in power suits having affairs in genderless bathrooms. While meanwhile, in the basement, there are these two IT guys played by Chris O'Dowd and Richard Ayoade, Roy and Moss. And they're pretty much the peons of this whole company. But in the basement, they have built the producer I can never say his last name, but it's Graham Linhan. It's Scottish, so I'm probably messing it up. But essentially, he built like his dream computer video game man cave, IT department, and that is the set for the show. And it's what is that called? Like filmed in front of a live studio audience.
A single or multicam.
Multicam. It is multicam style, which is usually not something like I go out for. I mean, except for Abby's. But the thing is, inside this like wondrous like underground man cave, in the first episode they introduce this character Jen, played by Katherine Parkinson, who is just as socially awkward as them, but instead of knowing about computers, she can kind of navigate the social landscape of this company that they're in, Renham Industries. Until season 2, when Renham, who's played by Christopher Morris from Mighty Boosh, he dies, and it becomes Denham Industries as his son, Denham, played by Matt Berry from frickin' What We Do in the Shadows and like a million other great things. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, he comes on and really turns this ensemble into like a 4-piece, and that I feel like is what the show is known more for. Although that first season felt very Mighty Boosh. Noah Fielding was in most of the episodes, playing the dark goth guy who lived in the server room. But this is a show where when I turn it on, the whole world disappears, and I'm just like sitting down in the IT room talking about, movies or video games. That's also another thing. This show is super timeless, despite the fact that there's video game posters and computers, and they talk about social media apps that nobody uses anymore and all this stuff. But the stories somehow seem to resonate with like almost in like a Curb Your Enthusiasm kind of way, where it's like, oh, I could see a situation in my life spinning out like this if I lived with sitcom characters.
There's a very Seinfeld vibe to it, I would agree.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And they came back and did a reunion episode a few years back. I'm actually not sure. And I thought they just knocked it out of the park. There's just so much. It's over on Netflix, and I think the reunion episode's on Hulu, but if you haven't checked it out, this is just one of my all-time favorites.
So I didn't realize until recently that Matt Berry came on, and that definitely. Oh, yeah. I've seen like 3 or 4 episodes of it, and I liked it, but I was like, I don't know if I'm invested enough in this as a comedy. But knowing that Matt Berry comes in and knowing how he comes in, because we talked about this the other day, I'm like, okay, I might have to catch up on some.
This is
IT
where
crowd.
I think of him from, like he's Matt Berry from the IT crowd for me.
Oh wow, okay. And I was mistaken. I thought it was the It Crowd, and it was about a bunch of evil clowns.
It's about those kids when they have to get jobs working in tech.
The evil clown terrorized me, and now I work in a shit job. All right, changing topics or changing tones completely. Let's go back for Grant's last top 3. I think this is Grant's. Breaking Bad.
It is.
Ooh,
man. I gotta admit, I was very conflicted in my third spot of saying Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones, because I feel like there's something very similar that they did for me in how I digested both those shows. But I'm going to stick with Breaking Bad because I distinctly remember the first time I heard about Breaking Bad. Our buddy Martin Thomas over at Spill.com, I used to work with him, and he came up to me. He's like, hey, I just watched the pilot for this brand new show, and you have to check this out. It's the craziest, one of the best pilots I think I've ever seen, and you're not even going to believe it. It popped up on this channel, AMC. No one's even heard of AMC. And yeah, I was like, AMC, that's not a thing. He's like,
you'd have to be mad, man, to watch that.
Oh, so good. Anyway, I was like, okay, fine. I went and checked it out, and I was just gobsmacked by how incredible and how well paced and how daring and dark that first episode was. I was like, oh, this concept, I'm immediately hooked. And everyone, I think, as soon as they saw that first episode, was on board, and it completely launched AMC. You can't really say necessarily the same thing for Mad Men doing it for them as much as it was Breaking Bad, because everyone was watching that show.
Yeah, Mad Men was critically beloved, but I think Breaking Bad is where it broke through to audiences.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it was just a show that it was so compelling each week to see like how much more shit they're going to get in and where it's going to go, the twists and turns. I mean, Vince Gilligan is brilliant. And I think we all became pretty obsessed with that show.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I just got to give it props.
You know, something else about that storytelling, I mean, especially the pilot, is that not only is it captivating to watch, but you can tell somebody this story. I feel like the Better Call Saul doesn't do this as well, but I feel like it's really easy, like you talk about water cooler TV, to like talk about what happened this last week on Breaking Bad. There's like 10 points to an episode. Each one of them is just as interesting as the last, and it's like easy to communicate it after the fact. Like it doesn't waste a second of screen time.
For me, it's been years since I've seen that pilot, and I can still think of just off the top of my head 3 visual images, like scenes from it that are just top moments. If I was just going to explain television to somebody, like, oh, well, you've got to know about Walt in his underwear beside the crystal ship is just an amazing visual shot. Him walking out of the store back through to fuck up the kids that are messing with his son. That honestly, that was the moment where I was hooked on this show forever. Was that scene of that's who that dude is. I will watch a show about that dude. And then Jesse crawling out of the window and down the roof with Walt in the car. And those are in. I mean, when you hear about like great opening shots or great closing shot. That's just one episode of this show. It's fantastic. Also, if we told you right now that the Game of Thrones creators were going to themselves make a prequel, would you trust that it would be as good as Better Call Saul?
No.
And the whole
Breaking Bad has the
conversation
fortune of not shitting the bed.
the whole conversation with Game of Thrones would be vastly different. I think
Those last seasons.
than what worked with. I mean, did you ever watch all of Game of Thrones?
No, I made it through like 4 episodes and then the finale.
Yeah.
That's so funny because we would talk about it every week religiously.
Oh, yeah.
Unless it's just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
So I would like to divert over to, I believe, Kyle's final pick, which is also a show that I love, and I'm so excited. They finally have rescheduled season 4, and I think it's supposed to come in the next month or two.
Ooh. Yeah, no, I've seen a bunch of promo stuff, but yeah, it's like, I love it when productions do that. Good Omens did this for a while, where it was just like one photograph for like 8 months, and you're like, what is this show going to look like? What's it going to be? It looked like a photo from somebody's smartphone. But we've had like a couple photos of Chris Rock for this season 4, and I'm just like, what is it going to be? But yeah, to kind of quick overview, Fargo is an anthology series that changes every season and attracts huge A-list actors every season to kind of tell these stories. Hold on, I have the wrong season pulled up. Yeah, no, you got to think about Billy Bob Thornton, Martin Freeman, and Allison Tolman in season 1. Like, oh my gosh, that's one of those times where you're like, all these people are on TV. And if that wasn't crazy enough in season 3, when you found out that it was going to be Ewan McGregor now playing twins, Carrie Coon, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, it was just like this. These are all like my favorite movie actors, and what is going to happen here? And what happens is the most stranger than fiction, true crime-esque. Because I guess these are all fictional.
Yeah, they're based on a true story. What's the line that the Coens put in there? The all the details been changed or something like that. It's like it's not based on a true story, but they put it out there like it is. This would be a true story. It's that kind of thing.
Because the thing is, for fiction, it feels stranger than fiction. All of these scenarios are so plausible, and it just really puts you in the head of these characters. And I think in terms of drama, this is a show that I feel like shifts every episode, regardless of the season, where your next episode, you can be guaranteed like, oh, it's going to be something completely different that we're going to focus on, and it's going to take me in a direction like I wasn't even expecting. Also, something else I love about this show is I feel like the possibilities are endless given this format. That really the only thing that's ever going to stop this show is a dip in quality, which would be super unfortunate. But it is just like such high level like FX again. They got all the good stuff. They got Dave. They got What We Do in the Shadows. Atlanta, Wilfred.
Noah Hawley, man.
Yeah, Noah Hawley. Fargo also, this is one of those things that's like, you want to talk about doing something crazy, following like this beloved movie and doing an adaptation for TV, even if you're Noah Hawley, who it turns out can do no wrong, that's a crazy ambitious thing to do, and for Fargo to be as good as it is kind of amazing.
I think it might very well be the best adaptation of a great and already loved property that I've seen. Like, because think of how other people just so frequently get one thing wrong here or there and just kind of shit the bed on what their adaptation is. Like, they took the spirit of what Fargo was and carried it into all these other different storylines, and it feels really one of the same seamlessly with the movie without trying to retrod over what that movie did. Just fits in the world.
And there's nice little nods to other Coen Brothers movies in there. They have those little nods from various things, and yeah, it's super, super good. All right, well, go ahead, Kyle.
No, I was just gonna say I'm excited for the new season to come out, but also two, like, I feel like there's way more like in-depth podcasts about every TV show that comes out. So it's like I'm kind of excited to watch this season with like whatever the trendy podcast is going to be for Fargo season 4.
So we have come to our final show, and that is Les's pick. And Les, take it away.
So I was trying to think. I mean, obviously we talk about TV all the time, and there's tons of shows we love. And trying to break it down to 3, I'm kind of glad Randy gave a format, even if he bailed on it, because I hate making lists like this. It's impossible for me to rank shit. There's great moments in so many shows, but rewatchability shows that I will go back and rewatch the whole run of. There's really not that many of them, and Sports Night is up there. It's one of the first shows that I ever bought on DVD. It is also, I think the main reason it made the list, it is one of the first 1-hour shows, like after I moved out of my parents' house, where I wasn't, just watching TV because my parents had a 1-hour drama on or something, where I was in college and this show premiered and I watched the first episode. I don't give any fucks about sports. And I was hooked. I'd never seen Aaron Sorkin. I don't think had done a show before this, or not show run it that I was aware of. So West Wing wasn't a thing yet. We'd not heard that Sorkin-esque writing, the walk and talk and all of that. I feel like all that got workshopped on Sports Night. Josh Charles, Peter Krause, and Felicity Huffman kind of anchor the show. And then the rest of the cast is also great. A lot of them end up on West Wing as part of his crew. I was hooked. This was one of the shows in college where I would tell people to get the fuck out of my room, or you had to be dead silent for the hour. This was before DVRs and such. So like, no, it's on right now. Shut the fuck up. It's on right now. It's happening. I can't stop it. It's like a wave. Like, I don't know why TV used to be like that. It's dumb. But once I got it on DVD and could pause it and just go back over it all the time, I loved Sports Night. Of course, Josh Charles will always be Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, the clown dog guy. He's going to have goodwill from me forever for that. Peter Krause from Lost Room and a million other things. Yeah, I adore this show, and it was one of the first things that just shocked me on quality of the show, because I fucking hate. I could give less shit about sports. When I saw the ads for it, I was like, I'll give that a shot. I like some of those actors, but wow, that premise sucks.
I have a weird memory about Sports Night, which was a house ad. Because they were having trouble promoting it. They didn't really know how to promote it as a drama or a comedy. It was something different. They didn't really know what they had, and that's kind of one of the last things that is said in the show is like, if one of the characters like, if you can't make money on Sports Night, you don't deserve to be in the money making business. But there was an ad with what was then like, I think ABC's like big hit NYPD Blue, where it was like Sipowicz talking to, I think, probably Jimmy Smits, his partner at the time, and they were discussing a show they had watched the previous night. And one of them was like, "Yeah, I watched this great comedy," and the other goes, "Yeah, I watched this great drama." And they're like, "Oh, maybe it was the same show." Like that was their idea.
And then they both fought over Hostess Cupcake Fireball.
Was that Sipowicz and his partner? I don't remember. Bobby Simone, maybe Bob. I don't remember. Were like discussing it the next day and how they weren't sure whether it was a comedy or drama, but they just knew it was so great. And I'm like, that is the weirdest tack you guys could have taken.
I also just the infuriating naivety of like, is it funny or sad? I can't handle both. My head will explode. Like,
also, season 1 does have a laugh track when they were trying.
That's what I was about to say. They had a laugh
rough.
track in the first few episodes, and it's fucked up to go back and listen to
Yeah.
now.
So I did want to talk about going back to it because Sorkin has definitely some of his charms have worn off on me as I get a little older, and I find him to be very much the pretentious white dude who is like trying to tell everybody how much better everything would be if they just listened to him. The white
I can't
man.
go back and watch West Wing because the combination of that pretentious white dudeness and politics just makes me want to throw a brick at my TV now. But Sports Night exists in a cuteness that is kind of self-contained, like Wonder Falls or Pushing Daisies or something like that.
Yeah, I get that.
And it feels like in y'all's weird little bubble world of this TV station, the same way Mythic Quest gets to exist in its weird pressure bubble. These people all never leave their jobs, and so it could work for me. But it has to be decoupled from the we're going to save the world by being well read.
Yeah, I get that.
No idea what's in store for y'all.
I actually just looked it up. It's true. I didn't know that he was a white guy. Aaron Sorkin. Huh.
Facts about Sorkin. I love that Sports
totally
Night
white.
is 2 seasons, but because it's on regular TV, that shit's 45 episodes.
Yeah. It has one of my favorite sort of heartwarming moments in there. The bit where Robert Guillaume's character comes back from having a stroke.
Yes.
While Dana's having like the worst day of her entire life. Like that is such a great moment of TV.
Yeah,
and it gets me every time.
I mean, I love that they cast Robert Guillaume Benson in the first place. But then the real actor had a stroke during the show, and they just incorporated it.
Yeah.
Which was great.
And was done really, really well. All right, guys. Well, that's our top 12. I guess we need to get to the other 288 shows to get to the 300. Is that right? We're going to keep going?
Luckily, we got all night.
Yeah.
I can do this all night.
Oh, no. What did I get myself into?
So yeah, this was fun. I like recapping and seeing where all different tastes are. I almost wish I'd thought a little bit further ahead and we'd reached out to like Greg and Johnny, because like Mad Men and The Wire would have made this list.
We would have needed another 45 minutes to an hour.
You figure we probably would have heard that Connie Britton story again?
Oh, God.
I feel like we have to mention that Kyle's FX comment made me think of it, and so I checked. Terriers is on Hulu now.
Oh, yeah, good to know.
Because FX is on Hulu.
Wait, FX on Hulu?
Crazy talk.
My least favorite Hulu.
I've already seen it. So, I'm good.
Not big on dogs.
All right, guys. Well, we'll close out with a quick reminder, as always, that we have a Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/tvdudes. Throw us $1 an episode. In exchange, we get streaming networks, and you get bonus content. We talked horror movies recently. We talked about Fast and the Furious, the entire series. Talked about Bill and Ted. Who knows what we're going to talk about on the Patreon? It could be anything. But, yeah, throw us $1 an episode, get bonus content every week, and help keep the TV Dudes afloat. That's awesome. Thank you to our patrons. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to Les and Grant and Kyle for being here with us this week.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, Randy.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you,
me.
Grant, for coming in.
Yeah. And until next time.
TV Dudes out.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.